What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. In this video, we are jumping into X-Men Days of Future Past, Doomsday issue number 1. A story written by Mark Guggenheim. The penciler is Manuel Garcia. The inker is Cam Smith. And the colorist is Yen Nitro. And I know everybody's not a fan of the Krakoan era. That's one of the reasons that I like to cover comics like this. Just an opportunity to throw us into the past. This is all about the cataclysm that leads to the X-Men's dystopian future. In this little mini-series, we are returning to the future. It is going to be revealed the events leading up to the timeless original Days of Futures Past. In a world where mutants are more than simply hated and feared, but not yet slain and apprehended. With the assassination of Senator Kelly, this brings in the Mutant Control Act, and then the Sentinels on every corner, as Professor X and the X-Men do everything they can just to survive. Behind the scenes, we have Magneto that is scheming. Magneto that will bring their ultimate doomsday. So make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel, make sure that you like this video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so this comic is really spanning over a 30-year period, but it jumps us off right into the fray. As we pick up at year 28, we have KATE PRYDE who is narrating the whole story for us. And this story starts us off with Banshee, aka Sean Cassidy. As he makes his way through the air, we see that he gets shot down. Immediately, Banshee is taken off the table, a sentinel knocking him right out of the sky. Right in the first page, they are letting us know that this is not a game. They're not messing around. But this is a story about the beginning of the end of the world. This is about living in a world where it is a crime to be a mutant, to simply live. As Cyclops, Colossus, Shadowcat, and Angel, they do their best to escort mutants out of here, almost making it to the Hudson. Once upon a time, these people, they may have been a team, but now they are not that. They are just people trying to survive. There is no effort to save the world. It is only about saving as many mutant lives as possible. As we watch a Sentinel rip Angel in half, Cyclops turns around. His eyes have been radiated out for years, and so he has no idea what is actually happening. But Scott knows that somebody has to hang back. Somebody has to hold off these Sentinels. With Colossus grabbing KATE PRYDE, they leave Cyclops behind. No longer having his mutant ability, he takes a machine gun and he opens fire. This Sentinel picks him up and it throws him across the town. As we watch Scott Summers get impaled, we have Jean Rasputin and Charles Rasputin, Goliath and Sprite. After witnessing the death of their Uncle Scott, they cannot contain their rage any longer. The two of them charge full force right into this Sentinel, and as Kitty watches, her heart, her soul, her reason for being, they are charging into battle. But these kids are formidable, phasing the Sentinel into the ground. Goliath coming in with one heck of a devastating punch, as Shadowcat and Colossus run to get their children, to get them out of harm's way. In this moment, they were too late. And we watch as the two children are incinerated by the Sentinel. To understand how we got here, we have to jump into the past. We pick up in the early years. Many people begin to speculate that all of this turned sideways when Senator Robert Kelly was assassinated. But the prejudice and the hatred, it didn't start there. It just needed an excuse. As year 4, 5, and 6 come along, Stryker is sworn in. The Mutants Control Act is passed. It was only because of Matt Murdock giving the argument of a lifetime that the Supreme Court had struck it down. But this didn't stop them. As we jump all the way to year 11, the overturning of the 22nd Amendment, effectively making William Stryker president for life, and the Sentinels win on the march. Propaganda blasted through every avenue. Now, the Sentinels were seen as nothing more than necessary deterrents. The Sentinels at first, they just walked around. At least that's what they thought that they were doing. But what they were really doing is detecting and cataloging mutant kind, so that when they were ready, they could move on all of them. That's what jumps us over to year 18, Stamford, Connecticut. The X-Men going against the Defenders. The Avengers had resigned in protest, but the government created a new superhero team anyway, as we see the likes of Franklin Richards and Rachel Summers going against the Defenders, going against those like John Walker, like Ironmonger, like Robert Hunter aka Nitro. While the team faces off against the Defenders, we see Nitro go off. The human bomb explodes, and with this, the declaration for martial law, as we pick up in Washington, D.C., having Valerie Cooper, Henry Gyrich, Wilson Fisk, and Simon Trask. Getting Stryker to implement martial law was always the plan, but now they worry about the Sentinels. Their primary directive is to maintain order and protect the populace. They are now discussing the possible chance of a takeover, that at some point the Sentinels will decide that they're no longer working for them. Instead, it's the other way around. But maybe, just maybe, that has already happened. Picking up with Captain America, Captain Steve Rogers, currently on the news talking about the prejudice against mutant kind, that there is no reasonable justification for this. But Simon Trask is going on to say that this is an absolute necessary thing, that these people are living weapons, that they are loaded guns, that regulating them would be best for society. It will keep everybody safe, that this is a necessity in life, that this is not prejudice, this is just common sense. Taking us to Avengers Mansion. Eventually, we get to a point where mutants and superpowered individuals are seen as one and the same. Anti-mutant sentiment begins to spread into anti-hero sentiment, and protests begin to turn violent, as we see Spider-Man coming in trying to break up this fight. For Spider-Man, it didn't go well, as they scream at him, calling him a mutie. He tries to break it up. He tries to calm everybody down, but that's when he gets hit in the back of the head with a pipe. And so when Spider-Man tried to make a getaway, the mob grabbed him. They forced him down. They held his arms. They smashed his face in with bricks and pipes. Now many speculate this Spider-Man, he could have gotten away from these people very easily, but he reportedly didn't put up a fight. The people that knew him best, they said it was because he didn't want to risk hurting anybody. But KATE Pryde, she does find this a little hard to believe. After all, who would let an angry mob just beat them to death? But that is exactly what happened to Peter Parker. As we pick up at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, the situation has become dire, and Charles has called all hands on deck. Not because of Stryker and the Sentinels, but because of Magneto. Magneto has turned his eyes towards the world's nuclear arsenals. He is concerned about nuclear weapons being under the control of people that are so prejudiced against mutant kind. And at this point, even Forge is saying that this is probably the best thing to focus on, because they are referring to them as persons of mass destruction, posing the question, is it really so hard to fathom that one day they would try to use nuclear weapons against us? But Charles has learned that Magneto wants to do a really preemptive strike. He is going to send his Brotherhood out to seize control of the world's arsenal. That is why he has asked his X-Men here today to stop Magneto. But Jean Grey does bring up a good point, that if they stop Magneto and the Brotherhood today, who's to say they won't try again tomorrow? Or if they must take over the nuclear weapons themselves, what do they do with them? And Charles doesn't know. The only thing he is focused on is today. In hindsight, all of this was idealistic, almost bordering on naive, sending all of them out into the world. What he didn't consider, or he didn't want to, is what would happen when the world found out. This is what takes us to the Cape Citadel. We have Magneto standing off against the X-Men. Wolverine letting Magneto know to return the nukes. Charles trying to let him know that you don't see what you are doing, that you're playing right into their hands. But Eric goes on to say that they are passing laws to make you a criminal, and you have done nothing. They send out sentinels on the march across the country, and you do nothing. They use mutantkind as a pretext to declare martial law, and again, you do nothing. That of all these men and women, so many enemies who hate and fear you, yet the only person that you stand against is me. And while they see it as him trying to take over the world, what he wants to do is protect mutantkind. He knows all too well that they will come for them. They will come for all of them. They will brand them like cattle. They will put them into ghettos. They will put them into camps. But Magneto is not talking about the future. He's speaking on the past. He knows because he has watched this happen with his own eyeballs. And he refuses to ever let that happen again. Putting on his helmet, he takes all of the missiles that he has stolen, and he heads out, with Charles sending in his team saying to go stop him before it is too late. When the US government realized what the Brotherhood was doing, they tried to move some of the nukes, but Magneto had people everywhere and ready for whatever might happen. This is what takes us 30,000 feet into the air with Mastermind, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Shadowcat, all telling Mastermind that he has to stop, that they must bring this to an end. And it doesn't take long, but we see the fight begin. Jean Grey hitting Mastermind with a blast. But Jean Grey didn't recognize what she was doing, not until it was already too late, because Mastermind got turned into freaking ash. Not only that, but whatever Jean just did, it also armed the nukes, and Kitty cannot shut them down. She wouldn't even know where to start. They have 15 seconds. Having no other option, Jean says she's gonna try to contain the blast, while Cyclops and Shadowcat, they phase out of the blast. With Kitty grabbing hold of Scott, she phases the two of them, and Jean Grey does her best to control the blast, but she failed to do so. With a giant explosion, even in a phased state, the radiation had burned right through Scott's eyes. Later on, they would have to be surgically removed, but he would survive. Both him and Shadowcat would, and as it turns out, they were the lucky ones. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I personally think it's a lot of fun. It gives us an opportunity to jump back into the Mansion days. An opportunity to jump back into days of future past. And to see how some of the most iconic characters ever brought to the X-Men were taken off the board. One thing I love about this era is Magneto, because me personally, I am 100% on board with the way Magneto sees the world. A man who went through Jewish persecution, watched friends and family be rounded up, be branded like cattle, be treated less than human. While Charles is naive, he tries to see the world with that glass half full, but he doesn't see that it's already too late, that they passed the point of no return years ago. Now it is all about survival. And so for me, I always agree when it comes to Magneto. I think the best thing for mutantkind would be to take over. That is the only way that you are going to have the power to stop this genocide. A revolution is necessary to save mutant lives. An overthrowing of world governments is an absolute necessity, especially when these governments have become so corrupt, overturning 22nd Amendments, allowing a president to stay president forever. This has turned into a dictatorship. But one of the biggest reasons I love these comics is because it relates so much to Nazi Germany. It shows the trials and tribulations of those that suffered under the oppressive boot of those that would want them dead just because of who they are. But so far, this is off to a really good start. I'm really excited to see where all of this is going to go. I love a good little mini-series that likes to fill in the gaps for us. But let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories, if you would like to get completely caught up on everything going on with this series, or anything else that is going on with the X-Men. Be sure to check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It will get you completely caught up on everything going on with these stories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel, but you are also getting tons of perks in the process. If you are unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.